So welcome everyone to our April 8th meeting of the Board of Education. I want to start by acknowledging the traditional territories of Inkakatma, Silk and Métis communities. Also wanted to mention tonight, we also have a grad hockey tournament going on at the same time. So it's good to see that. That's in support of the Johnson family, I believe. So it's if you recall, there was a medical emergency at the last game that was then postponed, and so they're now doing it as a fundraiser to the Johnson family. So it's good to see that. So if you're watching online and you also want to go over to the hockey game, by all means do so. It's for a good cause. And so we thank the grads for redirecting those dollars. It's good to see the community working in a good way together. Any changes to the agenda? Motion to accept the agenda.
So moved, Trustee Ward.
Oh, okay, seconded by Trustee Chenoweth. Anyone opposed? Carried. Minutes of the open meeting held March 11th. Trustee Ward, I think that was your motion to approve. Seconded by Trustee Kent Laidlaw. Anyone opposed? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes? You have in your package the report of the closed meeting held March 11th for information. And that brings us to the Indigenous Education Report.
So Angela does a great job putting together her update each month. Simone helps with the formatting, and it's a little reminiscent of my superintendent's report. But one of the things that I like a lot about this is it highlights the good work that's happening across our district and highlights those good news stories. I'm not going to read it to you, but the one thing I did want to highlight is the Elders Luncheon, which is on the 9th. Unfortunately, most of us are going to be away at BCSTA, but lovely that that is going ahead. And then on the 22nd, the traditional games for grade 6 students, another opportunity for our kids to come together from across the district. It's nice that, even though there's a little bit of distance that separates us from Merritt to Princeton, that really they can form bonds and connections. And Angela and her team have been doing an amazing job with the event. So just really appreciative of her work that she does.
Hey, Misty, will you be at the Elders Luncheon by any chance?
Tomorrow?
Okay.
I'm hoping to go up.
I just thought it'd be nice, just say condolences thanks from us and that we're not gonna be there.
I'll definitely pass that along. Yeah.
And I believe the grade 7s will be serving the elders and some of the grade 6s. That's been worked into it. So that's a nice piece as well.
Yeah. Gonna miss the panic.
Any questions on the report? That will move us to the inclusive education.
So Adrienne is actually at the grad game tonight supporting that event. But the one I wanted to highlight was the ICY team. So Adrienne actually sat in on program lead interviews over spring break. I know that they have a candidate that they're interested in. That position is actually held at Health. And I think they're in the process of making an offer. This one is meant to provide supports on a year-round basis. We haven't had any luck staffing our clinician yet, but we continue to have our ad out. But it's good to see that Health is moving forward with that program lead. And that might actually help attract a clinician because it's pretty hard to start in your role if there's no one to kind of guide the program. And then the other piece that Adrienne wanted to highlight is making sure that our schools are more accessible. So Adrienne's been working with Barb around those pieces. We've unfortunately experienced some tragedies in our community where it's brought accessibility to the forefront. Daryl and his team have done a really good job making sure that our schools are accessible, but we're always looking at how do we help people move forward with that. So, and then next month she's going to talk about kindergarten. So
Just
on that positive note.
a question.
Yeah.
The ISAs, can they be involved in the IT? Are you like?
You know what, like they could work with them like collaboratively. This one is a partnership between health and education. So part of the struggle that we've had is there's very strict criteria around the clinician piece of it. So people have applied, they either don't have enough experience or they don't have the right kind of training. And there's lots of competition for those clinician positions right now. But we're hoping once it's up and running that it'll be integrated into our other supports, like our counseling, our ISAs, our principals. Yeah.
Questions, we'll go on to the superintendent's report.
Yeah. And if you consider that we were out for 2 weeks in June and then we had a 4-day weekend for Easter, you know, really highlights the good things that are going on in our schools every day. And I'm not going to steal your thunder, so I'm only going to talk about one event per school. So bench catching leprechauns, so Mr. Denton's class. I never did this when I was in grade 2, and I feel like I was denied a really wonderful opportunity there. So my niece would be all over it with the glitter and the other pieces. Looking at Skides, you know, we often think these are our online kids, you know, putting a face to the name. I love that they included the pictures of how do you do foods at home, showing us those work pieces. Collettville, exploring trades at True, the Try a Trade. You know, we really want to try to hook those kids early so that they see that there's multiple options of what you can do when you get out into the workforce. We know that there is a serious deficit in skilled trades workers, and we know that those are high paying jobs. So appreciate the work that we can do with True there. PSS, Gorman Brothers gave a huge donation to the Woods program and just really appreciating them stepping up in Princeton and supporting the programs there. Looking at Diamondville, they did their Scholastic Book Fair, and they sold $3,676 worth of books, generated $1,000 in fundraising, and that'll give them an opportunity to buy some new resources for their library. If you've ever been to a book fair hosted by Mrs. Cleveley, she does an amazing job. And I did talk about it at our last board meeting, but one thing that she does, which is really unique, and I haven't seen it done elsewhere, she actually gets a wish list for teachers in the school, and then parents can buy books that are on the teacher's wish list. She started that at Central, and now she does it at Diamondville that she's moved there. So just real kudos to her of, you know, instilling passion for reading. And I also got to see her junior librarians in action the day that I was there. So, you know, she's making sure that when she retires, there's ones to come after her. Looking at JA, Joy is always the top of their list. Koala apparently is the chosen song. I have not heard that one, so I'm going to have to get them to sing it or play it for me next time I am there. But there's just a different atmosphere when you go to a K3. Looking at Nicola Canford, they did BattleBots and maze programming competition at their school. You know, really taking the skills that you learn in the classroom and then, you know, kind of having that comprehensive activity where people can show their skills and their talents. Bert does a really good job, you know, tailoring different events to kids' different strengths. Looking at Central, Natasha always has a ton to share with us. The one I was going to highlight was the goodbye to bus driver Lockhart. And real credit to Martha, our ISA there. She organized a blanketing ceremony. We did a little celebration here at the office, but I know he was deeply touched by that. you know, retirement is both joyful and sad at the same time because, you know, you come to the end of your successful career, but especially when you work with kids, it's always hard to say goodbye. So just real credit to the staff there, and especially Martha, who stepped up. Looking at Vermilion Forks, we also said farewell to Miss McFarland, who was a educational assistant. Just wanted to recognize, you know, we have people that sometimes leave throughout the year, depending on where they hit the retirement age, but just recognizing her contributions as well. Looking at Merit Secondary, we always try to start early with our transition process, especially with French immersion. So there was an event so that they could learn more about the school, meet the staff, get a bigger understanding of what French immersion looks like as they transition into secondary. And this work is important because what we often see is a drop in our numbers as they're moving up to secondary school. So, you know, really trying to promote the program and keep it strong with the numbers, because it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The fewer kids we have, the fewer that want to be in it. So if we can keep it strong, it's a more vibrant program. CLC, this was actually on their Facebook, but before spring break, the kids actually prepared 72 take-home meals. We know that times when school is not in session is difficult for about 1 in 4 of our students because they don't have regular access to food. So I thought this was a lovely way of doing that. You know, you're meeting your foods credits, you're remembering it, you know, and even if you don't need those take-home meals, opportunity where you can share with others. Allison and her team are doing some really good work at CLC. Not just the academic piece, but the life skills and I would say the citizenship piece. Just some really good pieces going on there.
It's awesome. Really nice. Have a look.
Questions for the superintendent?
No, it's just fun. It's a fun one.
Just to remind you all, since the bus drivers mentioned that April 15th is National Recognition Day for our drivers, so just remind the public of that, because we often don't think of them, but that's the first person our kids see in the morning, the last one at night, and they do make a difference. Carrying that most precious possession of our parents to and from school every day.
Hello.
Next is the next steps for the French immersion relocation.
So moving ahead, we've sent out a survey, which is now closed. It closed on the 2nd. Getting information from parents about what are their plans for next year. We have about 81 kids out of catchment. So figuring out, do they still plan to stay out of catchment? Are they returning to the school? And then also for French immersion, what are our numbers going to look like? We got a number of responses. We're still missing a few of the responses we got for French immersion. There's only 2 that are clearly leaving the program. There's still a few that are a little bit undecided about what they're doing. But this is helping us get some information in place as we look to plan staffing and transitions.
Is that figure, is that 105 now, or what was that?
They're at 112 right now, and we're projecting 107 for next year. Prior to the break, the administrator placements for merit were sent out to staff and to families. We actually did our interview for the principalship of Princeton Secondary School, so we should shortly be able to announce our admin placements for next year in Princeton. On the bright side, we are able to hold on to our current number of counselors that we have and maintain our 2 coaching positions. Those are really valued positions, and it will be nice that we will have those supports as we move forward. And we've started our facilities tour and transition meetings. And Brandon Sandbrook, who will be principal of Central next year will be meeting with his own PAC as well as Merit Central's PAC, and then just holding a general meeting for parents to come together. So the date for that one is to be announced. He'll just go to the next PAC meetings that are already scheduled to meet with the PAC groups.
And again, just a reminder for parents, regardless of the school you're at, if you're registering your child for kindergarten, we know those numbers are a bit low right now. That affects the staffing at every school. So making those decisions, getting that in helps our schools with their staff planning into the new year. So I encourage people, if you have children of that age and you haven't made that decision yet, to contact the school and get your child registered. Quick. Next is the annual facilities grant.
Okay, thank you. So annually, we seek approval from the board to move forward with projects on our annual facility grant that we get from the ministry. We just found out after I'd written this memo that our funding this year will be close to 900,000. So 896, and what you have before you is a list of projects totaling 872.
That's great.
So that's really encouraging, and we should find a place for the remaining 24,000 or
We placed 10 feet of pipe in.
So you see, so these are basically for minor upkeeps of our buildings. Of course, we have lots of needs all the time, and so you see the different examples there of electrical upgrades, asbestos abatement, HVAC upgrades, and so on. So we're just seeking board approval for this before we submit it to the ministry.
Looking for a motion.
A motion that we approve the list of annual facility.
Trustee Rayner, seconded by trustee Chenoweth.
Good work, James.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
$97,000 for indoor.
I was on that one.
Door bombs.
Bob's, oh my God.
Yeah, so just, I'll just quickly say, so that's an ongoing thing. We're just trying to touch all the, we've gotten to quite a few sites already. So this is on.
And I had one on the question on the marriage. It was the shutters. For those for the outside?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah, again, we're working our way.
because it said hallway shutter.
I know, I got thrown off, but I guess he calls it a hallway, kind of in the back part of the building or something.
Cool.
Breezeway, I guess you might call it. Thank you.
And the fobs themselves are fairly cheap. It's the wiring to put the electronics and the piece by the door so that you can swipe it. That's where the cost is.
I would hope it wouldn't be $100,000 actual falls.
We're in 3 known fobs.
Oh,
Any other questions for the Secretary Treasurer? Then we'll move on to the capital budget bylaw.
Okay, so in September, we brought to you a list of a 5-year capital plan of minor capital. And that we were going to submit to the ministry, and they usually respond near the end of March as to what they can approve for us. We submitted a proposal for $3.7 million of asks, and you can see they're coming back with 1.2 million that's listed on here, and then probably another 300,000 or 400,000 for the buses. So basically a third of the thing, which is expected. So so what we received is a continuation of fixing some of the science rooms in our Merit Secondary. We started that this year, and we have another 2 rooms that we'll be able to do next year. And then a bunch of HVAC upgrades at various locations around our district.
Which means our unfunded, that 9.5 million last year of unfunded is going to grow to about 10 million because we're short here again, which means our maintenance costs are going to go up because we're going to be doing more maintenance on aging structure. So it is what it is. I think it's about 230 million across the province. So we're not alone in our misery on that. So, any questions on the motion? If not, I will read the puppy out so that we get it into the record.
This is where we need the three.
Yeah, so we'll do the first two readings, then I'll move a motion to go to third reading. Then I will need unanimous consent to go to third reading to have third and final reading, otherwise it pops over to May. So it is,
So we need a motion to have all three readings, correct?
we can do first and second reading, then we need a motion to go to third reading because it's a bylaw.
Good.
And once that's agreed to, then we can have third and final reading. And to go to third and final reading has to be unanimous. So it is capital bylaw plan CPSD 58-01. We're in accordance with section 143 of the School Act. The board has prepared this capital bylaw and agrees to do the following: authorize the secretary treasurer to execute a capital project funding agreements related to the capital projects contemplated by the capital plan or the capital plan and its modifications upon ministry approval to commence with the capital projects and proceed diligently and use the best efforts to complete each capital project substantially as directed by the minister, to observe and comply with any order, regulation, or policy of the ministry as may be applicable to the board or capital projects, and maintain good and proper books of accounts and other information and documents with respect to the affairs of the capital projects as may be prescribed by the minister. Therefore, the board enacts the following: the capital bylaw of the board for the 26-27 capital plan as approved by the minister to include the supported capital project specified in the letter addressed to the secretary treasurer and superintendent dated March 27th, 2026 is hereby adopted, and the capital bylaw may be cited as School District 58 Nicholas Milkamine Capital Bylaw number 2627 CPSD 58-01. I will entertain a motion for first and second reading. Moved by trustee Ward, seconded by trustee Kent Laidlaw. Anyone opposed? I will now take a motion to proceed to third reading. Moved by trustee Rayner, seconded by trustee Jepson. Anyone opposed to third and final reading? I take it you two gentlemen would like to move third and final reading. Yes?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll do it.
Anyone opposed to third and final reading of the budget bylaw as presented? It is carried. Thank you. Now have the preliminary annual budget.
It's the stuff we can fix like on capital stuff.
Okay, this is just a brief update of where we're at with working towards a preliminary budget. We've had a budget working group working the last month in anticipation of the funding that we'll get from the ministry. The funding rates came out in mid-March, and we discovered that the funding rates are the same as they were this past year in 25-26, which means there's no funding for inflationary increases, which will make a few budget challenges when we are looking at our budget assumptions for next year. There's some information in there about funding protection, which we get to ensure that our funding doesn't drop too low, even if we have a decrease in enrollment. This is probably not going to come to much when we look at SKY's enrollment for next year, and we plan not to lean on it because it's one-time funding, and we want to set ourselves up for sustainability going forward. Senior staff will meet with our LEA rights holders as well as representatives of our two unions next week to go over some of the budget assumptions before we have the public budget consultations on April 22nd and 23rd in Merritt and Princeton respectively.
Any questions for the secretary treasurer?
We'll get that, those two dates maybe on the web page. This is the public's.
Yeah,
Okay, oh, they are.
I think they are.
Oh,
They should be on
I
Facebook.
should have known.
They're even in our newspaper.
Oh, wow.
Since Skype was brought up. When you look at, I think when I was talking with the superintendent, they were estimating there's about 10 positions in our bricks and mortar schools that are actually, because we've got the funding on the Skype side, we're able to support those positions. So when people ask that question, we're already, won't say subsidizing, but there's a good portion of positions we're able to maintain because we have the Skies program. And as you know, that program has been extended for 1 year. We're hoping to get a contract on that to continue that program, but that's still that other piece in the budget. That's an unknown because government only extended it for 1 year. So that's just another cautionary piece. Not necessarily for this year, but as we build out the following year.
Have they given any indication when they might make that decision?
No, so last year they sent out that they were gonna renew everyone for 1 more year to 2027. They sent it out in July. They didn't even confirm until end of November. I've followed up with the ministry and other people that run Pulse schools. There's no time frame for this. What's interesting, like when I've asked what this process looks like, there doesn't seem to be one in place right now. So I don't know if they're planning to start that at the 2026, 2027 level. They did mention they didn't want years where, because you normally get a 3-year extension, so people were falling in all different years. So one of the things that's been brought forward is they wanted the contracts all aligned, so the extension for the pool schools. But there's a lack of information rather than a clear path forward for this, which makes it difficult to plan in the long term.
And the risk, if you don't hear until sometime in June and a program's ending, you're obligated under the contract because it's May when you have to do layoff notices that you could then have, well, about 12 staff that we are under contract to pay. So we really want those
The
to be
government.
extended, but that's one of those pieces there that's we're trying to work our way through. And as the Secretary Treasurer mentioned, we don't have, the funding is the same, which means if there's any increases in EI or Canada Pension Plan or WorkSafe, we'll be covering all of that. And we know there was a shortfall in previous years on admin salaries. I think that was about 158,000 the last time. So we're expecting that to continue to go up because it's never been fully funded. So even though they'll fund a portion of it, that will be another piece we have to watch. We have some policy. If there's no questions for the Secretary Treasurer, we do have some policy pieces for first reading.
So I just wanted to say thank you for everyone coming together to help craft these. A big thank you to our rights holders, and then also our QP rep really brought some good pieces forward. BCSTA is advocating that boards have policies in place. What you may question is, why are the superintendent and secretary treasurer policies and the other ones admin procedures? And the reason is superintendent and secretary treasurer have special responsibilities under the School Act. And those are consistent across all districts. You have to have a superintendent, you have to have a secretary treasurer. As we learned, and I explained many times in our community consultations, the other positions go by a variety of titles, and they may or may not exist in a district depending on how they choose to structure it. But I actually think this is pretty timely because there was lots of questions around, what do I do as superintendent? What does Misty do? What does Mark do? So we've created those APs. I also took some of the feedback that we got in our policy, and I added some of those pieces to our admin procedures. Those are just there for your information. We also every year we do duty to report, which is if we believe that there's child abuse or neglect. We just formalized it more in an admin procedure, and that's what we're doing as we move through and are creating our catalog of admin procedures so that it's easy to find and reference. Making a call about child abuse or neglect is one of the most difficult things that we often do as school staff. And having a very clear laid out process of what does that look like, we feel like it's going to be supportive. We've also created a PowerPoint that we can go through with our staffs, both support and teachers, making sure that everyone understands what their duty is and, how do we recognize, possible indications of child abuse or neglect. Back to the policies. We are bringing these forward for first reading. And then what's been our typical practice, even though we're not required to have the 3 readings anymore, is we do a first reading, we send it out for further feedback, we come back and do a second, and then we do a third, just so that we have those consultation pieces in there if there's any changes or other pieces that we want to see in there. So what I'm asking for is a motion to approve the first reading of those 2 policies.
I support that motion to approve the first 2 readings for policy 1.31, role of superintendent, and policy 1.32, role of secretary treasurer.
And can't they, you seconded? Any other discussion? Anyone opposed? That is carried for first reading.
I think it's great that we take it up to the. Sure.
The administrative procedures were there for your information. Was there any questions on those? Being none, that moves us to the student trustee report.
Okay, so my question was, what we should do to introduce Bill next year into Central? And I had to talk to, Mr. Cowan to it, and I think we should have a grade 6 and 7 meeting, like to introduce those, grades together. And maybe further on, because I do one-on-one little buddies at Central actually every Wednesday. And I talked to them about it. And this little girl, she's like, "Oh, the colorful kids, I don't like them." Like, that isn't a good attitude.
No.
So, and I literally, like, that was the day I asked. Later on, he pulled me aside, and I think we should have them introduced because there's obviously going to be a barrier. And I think more playgrounds or places for kids to be, because, like, they already have the big kids and little kids separated. And since I go there every morning, I see it. It's pretty, like, everywhere is filled. So I don't want the Bill kids to go there and just, like, I don't know, take some little kids' turf on the playground, you know.
That's a good point. Really good.
Thank you, Shani. I see you just jumped right in. I was just getting ready to like read my spiel, but you got it covered, so thank you so much.
It's nice to have that information in the context, and you talking
Yeah.
to a student there to get
Directly.
to hear what they're thinking and how we deal with that, and whether it's misinformation or not understanding, or perhaps something conveyed by a parent, but how we bring those 2 schools together as one. It's really important.
I wonder what made that little change her. Cause it must have been talking with other kids or something. Really cool.
Reports. Let's start with trustee
Sure.
Chenoweth.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay.
I work by the number of degrees you have and work.
Oh.
I don't have a report. Skies is tonight and Bill's next week. So pass it on. to
Next
Jeff.
for the report.
Sure.
I'm in the same boat. I don't, we haven't met at either Diamondville or Central since our last board meeting. Central's next meeting is 7 o'clock on the 14th, and Diamondville meets on the 21st at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, we also did not have a meeting in March. However, I have some news. We did actually get a grant from for PSS through participation. because of the work of our PAC, which is amazing. So they actually got $1,000 to go towards the paint run. I think the plan is to buy t-shirts for all the kids so that they can participate, and then maybe some snacks. So that's really great. And the Spain and Portugal trip was a success. They had a really good time. They had some interesting setbacks that meant a trip to the consulate to get a new passport for one of the kids, but
Good
I
lesson.
think, I think that they all got home safe and sound at the end, and they had a really good time, so it's a good adventure for them.
We're gonna try and get them to the Princeton meeting, I think.
I've tried to talk my daughter into doing that, and she absolutely refuses to speak in public. Yes. But other kids might be great it'd be great to see the pictures, because they're really,
Yeah.
it looked awesome.
I guess we're over to you, sir.
Cool. Mine's next week. Leah, or is she
I
gone?
think Leah's
No.
gone
He
because
had
she
to.
has a BCSTA meeting about this time. Um. So MSS is next week. Bench did meet. We already talked about the catching a leprechaun. They did hold a anti-racism assembly last week, which was good, one for intermediates and one for primaries. Think you'll like this, Trustee Rayner. Rugby Canada hosted an introduction to rugby session last week at Bench, and Bench hosted Diamond Vale for that as well. So
Nice.
looking at that and how that's going to build into our secondary program, I think is neat.
It's pretty good.
As you know, the elders gathering is tomorrow at Merit Bench, and the intermediate students will help with the serving and participate in Thompson language game. So there we go. And just so the public are aware, we have our annual general meeting for BCST and other reports this weekend down in Vancouver, which many of us will be attending as part of our job as your elected officials. Cassie, I'm looking at you. I'm thinking there's no public because they're all at the hockey game as they should be. Excellent. In which case I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Well, I saw her on the screen, so she did it twice. It's amazing.
I have the cards for the bus drivers. I'll bring them down to Leah and
Excellent. Thank you, Jonathan.
Cool.
We are adjourned.
thank you very much, young lady.
Thank you, Shani. Awesome.
In here.